right, waiting for a Rose Garden event at the White House. This on the 35th day of a shutdown where we're told that a lot of people are scrambling behind the scenes to cobble together something that will be acceptable by both sides. It all comes down to winning over passage in the Senate and getting the 60 votes there. You do that, you got it, all right? And that's the problem here. They come close, sometimes actually not even close, but we'll see. Let's go to the Independent Women's Forum, Hadley Heath Manning. Hadley, is it your sense that things are percolating, or maybe yesterday's votes, failing though they did, the Democratic measure and the Republican measure to garner the 60 votes was the start of something?
Oh, I think things have been percolating. You know, this is not the kind of situation where you give up and walk away. Certainly, it's the longest shutdown in history. But I agree with what you said before the break, Neil, actually, and that is when we watch the markets, when we watch the economy, watch what Americans are doing, going about our everyday lives, certainly the impact of this shutdown is concentrated, particularly on the federal workforce itself. Most Americans feeling still a minor impact or no impact, and hopeful that this will resolve soon and that ultimately the federal workers who have been furloughed will be given their back pay and restored to some type of normalcy in D.C.
You know, a lot of people are saying about who wins this, who blinked, whatever. Well, the one thing I notice about shutdowns, whatever happens in the moment, whether it's deemed to be the president caving or the other side caving, the nation moves on. And maybe much like the markets, it's a reflection of this too shall pass. I don't know. I'm simplifying it overly so. But I tend to take that bigger picture view of something. And the moment now might set the stage for what is probably going to be an acrimonious relationship between the Democratic House and the Republican Senate and President. I get that. But that was already baked into the cake regardless, right?
Right. And I mean, even though I think people get sick of hearing political talking heads like me talk about the next election, the next election.
Right.
The next election is still a long way off, Neil. We've got time between now and then. There are going to be a lot of other subjects that come to the forefront of Americans' minds. So whether or not this ultimately ends up helping or hurting either side, I think one of the big problems when it comes to a government shutdown in today's very polarized political environment is that neither side really has much of an incentive to end this because in pandering sort of to their own base, they can continue to keep the government partially shut down as it is, and continue to fight for, ultimately what they may feel is a zero-sum game.
And what's so nutty about it is that they agree on a lot of this stuff. I mean, I talked to Steny Hoyer, the #2 Democrat, who didn't find the concept of a wall immoral, even though Nancy Pelosi did, who didn't have a problem with the president speaking in the well of the House, even though Nancy Pelosi did. I've talked to a number of Republicans who heretofore had said, oh, no way we're going to do something on DACA, but they're open to doing something on DACA. They had that as part of a grand bargain they were kicking around a little more than a year ago. So they're more in agreement than we know. But I've said this so many times that it's like professional wrestling. Everyone assumes a position and a character, and it's almost like a comic book and insulting, I think.
It is. And, this is not my terminology. I read this somewhere, but it's almost as if President Trump has the opposite of the Midas touch. Any policy idea that he touches ultimately turns into a big problem for Democrats. And we do know some prominent Democrats have supported physical barriers at the border before.
Absolutely.
Now they seem to not want to put a dollar forward for that. Another example is work requirements in the Medicaid program. This used to be an issue that would have 70% support in the American public. But now that President Trump and his administration are trying to, implement stronger work requirements in the Medicaid program, it seems a lot of people, particularly on the Democratic side, are opposed to the idea.
Absolutely. You know what I'd do if I were the president? I don't want a wall. Don't you even think about a wall, right? I don't know. It's just so silly, but it is what it is. Hadley, you're the best. Thank you very much for helping us out.
Thanks, Neil.
All right.